What happens when a Hollywood star turned royal sits across from one of America's most beloved talk show hosts, only for the conversation to unravel into one of the most shocking clashes daytime television has ever seen? The Jennifer Hudson Show had built a reputation for warmth, compassion, and authenticity. But on this day, viewers around the world would witness something far different. What began as a friendly, harmless interview with Meghan Markle quickly spiraled into a storm of tension, ego, and unfiltered emotions, culminating in a dramatic breakdown that no one in the studio audience could have predicted. Stay tuned, because this isn't just another celebrity chat. This is the day the Duchess met her match. The studio of the Jennifer Hudson Show buzzed with anticipation. Producers moved briskly around the set, their headsets buzzing with last-minute instructions. The audience, a lively mix of daytime fans and curious spectators, sat ready with applause signs glowing in their hands. A warmth always hung in the air on Jennifer's stage. But today something felt slightly different, something heavier. Jennifer Hudson emerged from backstage to her signature applause, dazzling in a vibrant emerald dress that shimmered under the studio lights. She smiled wide, waving to the audience, her energy filling the space. "Welcome back, everybody," Jennifer beamed, her rich voice carrying across the studio. "Today, we have a very, very special guest. She has been at the center of conversations around the world. She's a philanthropist, a mother, a public figure who has never been afraid to speak her truth. Please welcome Meghan Markle." The audience clapped and cheered, though the energy was polite rather than explosive. Meghan stepped onto the stage, her posture perfect, her chin held high. She smiled faintly at the applause, though her expression never fully softened. Jennifer rose to greet her with open arms. "Meghan, welcome. Thank you for joining us." "Thank you, Jennifer," Meghan replied smoothly, her tone warm but measured. "I'm happy to be here." The two women settled into their seats, Jennifer's bright smile filling the screen, while Meghan adjusted her blazer with practiced poise. The camera zoomed in as Jennifer began with her trademark warmth. "So," Jennifer said, leaning forward just slightly, "how has it been adjusting to life here in the U.S.? I know it must be a change from London." Meghan's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, the smile thinning, her brows lifting ever so slightly. She let out a short laugh. "Is that your way of saying I wasn't welcome there?" The audience chuckled awkwardly, unsure if it was a joke or not. Jennifer blinked, her smile tightening but still present. No, not at all. I just meant it's a big cultural shift, right? From one place to another?" Meghan crossed one leg over the other, her tone now cool. "Life is a cultural shift no matter where you go. I don't really define myself by geography. If others chose to define me by whether I was welcome somewhere, that says more about them than me." Jennifer nodded carefully, maintaining her composure. "I hear you. I just know a lot of our viewers were curious about how that transition felt for you personally." "Personally," Meghan repeated, tilting her head. "Personally, I've always adapted just fine. I don't spend my life worrying about what other people think or how much approval I'm getting. That's exhausting. Some of us move on." The tension was faint but unmistakable now. Jennifer smoothed the fabric of her dress, glanced at the camera, and pressed on. "Well, Meghan, speaking of personal life, people always want to know about you and Prince Harry. How's married life? How are you two balancing everything with the kids?" The audience leaned forward, eager for the response. Meghan's eyes flicked to Jennifer, narrowing slightly. "Married life is wonderful," she said briskly, "but I find it fascinating how people cling to every rumor and whisper. Harry and I don't need to defend our marriage to tabloids or to anyone. Frankly, Jennifer, I'm surprised you'd even ask about that. Don't you think the gossip has been beaten to death already?" The studio air cooled a little more. Jennifer's smile faltered for half a second before recovering. She chuckled lightly, trying to diffuse the mood. "I didn't mean it as gossip, Meghan. Our audience just loves to hear about family life, that's all." Meghan leaned back, her posture rigid. "Well, then you can tell them we're perfectly fine. And they don't need to read into every baseless headline." A faint murmur rippled through the audience, sensing Meghan's edge. Jennifer inhaled deeply, maintaining her gracious tone. "Fair enough," she said softly. "I respect that." She shuffled her cards, searching for safer ground. Now let's talk about your career. You've had such an interesting journey, from acting to stepping into the role of Duchess, and now all the work you're doing with your foundation. Looking back, what do you miss most about your acting days? For the first time, Megan's lips curled into a wry smile. Miss, I don't miss anything about it. Acting was a chapter, a useful stepping stone. But honestly, Jennifer, when people ask that, it always feels like they're trying to remind me of a time before my life really mattered. Acting was fine, but my impact now is far greater. Jennifer blinked, taken aback by the bluntness. She recovered quickly, laughing gently. I didn't mean to minimize what you're doing now. I just know fans loved your work. Fans love a lot of things, Megan replied curtly. That doesn't mean I need to keep reliving them. I've outgrown that part of my life. The air thickened again. Jennifer's warmth was steady, but the edges of her patience were showing. She pressed forward cautiously. Okay, then let's talk about your foundation. What kind of legacy are you hoping to build? Megan's smile sharpened, her tone lofty. Legacy is about more than ribbon cutting or smiling for cameras. It's about redefining what matters. And I think a lot of people, institutions, media, even entire nations, are uncomfortable with me because I don't play by their outdated rules. Jennifer opened her mouth, but Megan kept going. And if some people can't handle that, that's not my problem. That's there. The audience exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't the uplifting Megan interview they'd expected. Jennifer shifted in her chair, nodding but clearly recalibrating. Well, she said with a laugh that carried a trace of steel, you certainly don't hold back, do you? Megan smirked, tilting her chin upward. Why should I? The camera panned across the audience, capturing their stunned silence. Somewhere in the control room, a producer mouthed silently, this is about to get interesting. And indeed, it was only the beginning. The applause sign flickered again as the show rolled back from a short commercial break. But the audience's energy had shifted. They were no longer relaxed. They were leaning forward in their seats, tense, waiting to see what might happen next. Jennifer Hudson's radiant smile held steady as the cameras zoomed in, but her eyes carried a flicker of determination. She had interviewed countless celebrities, politicians, and stars, but Meghan Markle was presenting a new challenge. Welcome back, Jennifer said warmly. We're here with Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, philanthropist and advocate for mental health and equality. Meghan, thank you again for being here. Meghan crossed her legs, her posture regal, her chin tilted upward as if addressing the room from a position of command. Of course, she said coolly. It's important to give people the opportunity to hear the truth, unfiltered. Jennifer nodded, her smile intact. Well, let's talk about something simple. You've been living in California now for a while. How has it felt building a life in America after so much time in the UK? It was a warm, neutral question, but Meghan's face stiffened instantly. Is that your way of implying I wasn't accepted in England? She shot back, her tone sharp. The audience gasped softly. Jennifer blinked, caught off guard, but quickly recovered. Not at all, she said smoothly. I was just asking about the contrast. A lot of people are curious about how... Meghan interrupted, her voice rising slightly. Because I've heard that before. People making little digs, suggesting I left because I couldn't fit in. The truth is, Jennifer, I chose a better life for my family. That's not failure, it's freedom. Jennifer held her smile, though it now felt tighter at the edges. Fair enough, she said gently. I think many people admire your courage to make that change. The audience clapped politely, but the mood was uneasy. Jennifer pressed on, carefully pivoting. And how's life with Harry? People always want to know. What's it like balancing such a high-profile marriage with family life? Meghan's laugh was cold. You mean the gossip? The endless speculation? Honestly, Jennifer, I would have expected you, of all people, not to pander to tabloid headlines. Harry and I are fine, more than fine. We're in love. We're raising two beautiful children. And unlike most people speculating about us, we actually know the truth. Jennifer's smile faltered for the first time. I wasn't asking about gossip, Meghan. she said softly, though there was a firmness beneath her voice. I was asking about your experience. That's something only you can share. Megan leaned back, folding her arms. Well, my experience is private. Not everything needs to be dissected just because people think they're entitled to my life story. The audience shifted in their seats. A faint murmur spread through the studio. Jennifer drew a slow breath, centering herself. All right, she said with a gentle nod. Let's move to another topic. A lot of viewers admire the way you've spoken openly about your time in the royal family. What do you feel you have learned since stepping away from that role? For a moment, Megan's jaw tightened. Her eyes flashed as though the very mention of royalty irritated her. What I've learned, she said, her voice dripping with disdain, is that titles and institutions are meaningless if they don't serve humanity. People love to act like I should be grateful for having been part of that family. But the truth is, I outgrew them. Their world is outdated. I've moved on. Perhaps everyone else should too. A hush fell over the studio. Jennifer's hands clasped in her lap, her poise unbroken but her patience fraying. Some might say, Jennifer began slowly, that being part of that institution gave you a platform that helped amplify your voice. Do you feel any gratitude for that? Gratitude? Megan cut in sharply, her eyes narrowing. Why should I be grateful for being silenced? For being scrutinized endlessly? Gratitude is a weapon people use when they want you to stay quiet and compliant. I've built my own platform now. I don't owe them anything. The audience gasped again, some whispering to each other. Jennifer's calm facade cracked slightly. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing just a bit. All right, she said, her voice firmer. Let's pivot again. There's been some chatter about your Netflix projects. Some reports suggested you asked for higher pay for the next season. Is there any truth to that? Megan's head snapped toward her, her tone laced with venom. Excuse me? Do you really think I sit around negotiating gossip with tabloids? Netflix recognizes my value. If people want to frame ambition as greed, that's their problem, not mine. Frankly, Jennifer, I'd expect better from you than repeating baseless rumors. Jennifer inhaled sharply. Her smile remained, but her voice carried an unmistakable steel. I wasn't quoting tabloids, Megan. I was asking you directly, giving you the chance to set the record straight. Megan scoffed audibly, leaning back in her chair. The record is that I don't owe anyone an explanation for how I negotiate my worth, least of all this audience. The room went silent. For the first time in her career as a host, Jennifer Hudson's warmth was overshadowed by something harder, something resolute. She adjusted her posture, the smile fading from her lips. Well, she said slowly, that's certainly one way to put it. The audience erupted into uneasy laughter, sensing the battle lines being drawn. Megan's jaw was set, her eyes daring Jennifer to push further. And Jennifer, after years of patience and grace, looked like she just might. The studio lights glared a little brighter, as if the very room sensed the tension building. Meghan Markle sat with her arms folded tightly across her chest, her eyes hard, her lips pressed in a thin line. Jennifer Hudson, meanwhile, leaned forward slightly, her hands clasped together, her once radiant smile fading into something calmer, steadier, like a singer preparing to hit a note that could shatter glass. All right, Megan, Jennifer said, her tone still measured but tinged with steel. Let's take a step back. People have watched your journey, from Hollywood to the palace to now. They've heard your story in documentaries, interviews, books. But some feel like the narrative keeps shifting. What would you say to those who think you've changed your story over time? The audience leaned in, waiting for Megan's reply. Megan tilted her head, her voice cool and dismissive. I'd say those people are too invested in dissecting me instead of looking at the bigger picture. I don't owe anyone consistency when my lived experience has been complex. If people want a neat little story, maybe they should watch a fairy tale instead of my life. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience. Jennifer raised her eyebrows, her patience thinning. Fair enough, she said, her voice even, but surely you understand why people are confused. You've said one thing in one interview, then another thing later. Megan cut her off sharply, her eyes flashing. Oh, so now you're accusing me of lying? Jennifer's lips pressed into a firm line. I didn't say lying, I said confused. And you're sitting here on my show, so I think it's fair to ask what's real and what isn't. For the first time, the warmth drained entirely from Megan's face. She leaned forward, her voice sharp. Jennifer, let me explain something. When you've lived under constant attack by the press, by the institution, by people who will twist anything you say, you learn that the truth isn't about timelines or details. It's about survival. And if people can't understand that, that's on them. Jennifer held her ground, her posture tightening. I hear you, but let me tell you something too. When you ask people to believe you, when you build projects around your story, they're going to ask questions. That's not an attack, Megan. That's accountability. The audience broke into spontaneous applause. Megan's jaw tightened. She sat back in her chair, her voice cold. Accountability? You want to talk about accountability? How about the accountability of a media machine that profits off my suffering? How about the accountability of people who sit here pretending to care while really just chasing ratings? Jennifer's patience cracked. She straightened, her voice dropping low, her words sharp but calm. With all due respect, Megan, don't come on my show and accuse me of chasing ratings. I built this show to uplift people, to give them space to share their truth. If you can't handle being asked direct questions, maybe interviews, ran in and you know what for you. The studio erupted in cheers and applause. Megan's eyes widened, her expression darkening into fury. She shook her head, laughing out bitterly. Oh, I see how it is. The applause lines, the gotcha moment. Congratulations, Jennifer. You've joined the long list of people who think they can reduce me to a headline. Jennifer leaned in, her voice steady, but now carrying unmistakable bite. No one's reducing you, Megan. You're doing that to yourself. Every time someone asks you a question, you snap back. Every time someone tries to connect, you turn it into an attack. That's not strength, that's arrogance. The audience gasped, several clapping while others whispered in shock. Megan's composure cracked visibly, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. Arrogance? She hissed. You think standing up for myself is arrogance? No, Jennifer. What's arrogant is pretending you understand my life when you've never lived a day of it. Jennifer's eyes didn't waver. And what's arrogant, she fired back, is believing that because you married into a family with titles, you're above being asked questions like everyone else. The words hit like a thunderclap. Megan's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes glistened, not with humility, but with anger that had no outlet. The audience was dead silent now, the tension suffocating. Jennifer leaned back, her arms folding across her emerald dress, her voice calm but unyielding. You wanted a platform, Megan. Well, this is what it looks like when you're asked to actually use it. The truth is, you can't demand sympathy and then push people away when they ask for clarity. You can't have it both ways. The silence stretched on. Megan shifted in her seat, visibly shaken but unwilling to admit defeat. She wiped the corner of her eye quickly, pretending it was nothing. And for the first time that afternoon, Jennifer Hudson wasn't just the host of a talk show, she was the voice of a crowd tired of excuses. The audience erupted into thunderous applause. Megan looked away, her jaw clenched, her hands trembling slightly as she struggled to keep control. The studio air was heavy, thick with tension that felt more like a courtroom than a talk show. Meghan Markle sat rigid in her chair, her arms crossed like armor, her jaw clenched so tightly it seemed to ache. Across from her, Jennifer Hudson no longer wore the effortless warmth that had made her show a household staple. Instead, her expression had hardened into one of cool defiance, the look of a woman who had been pushed past her breaking point. The audience was silent, sensing that something extraordinary, maybe even dangerous, was about to unfold. Jennifer took a deep breath, her voice low and firm. You know, Megan, I've tried. I've given you space to share your story. I've respected your privacy where I could. But every question I ask, you twist into an insult. Every opportunity to connect, you turn into an attack. So let's stop pretending. Megan blinked, her lips parting in disbelief. Pretending? Are you seriously suggesting that my answers aren't valid just because you don't like them? Jennifer leaned forward, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. No, Megan, I'm suggesting that your answers are performances. carefully crafted, designed to make you look like the victim in every single scenario. You talk about authenticity, but everything you've said today drips with contempt. For the press, for the audience, even for me sitting right here. Gasps rippled through the studio. Megan's face flushed crimson. She opened her mouth to speak, but Jennifer didn't give her the chance. "You want the truth?" Jennifer continued, her eyes blazing. "Here it is. You're not a royal. You're not a leader. You're not a voice for the voiceless. You are someone who married into a famous family and thought the world would bow at your feet. And when it didn't, you weaponized your pain and called it a platform." The audience audibly gasped. Megan's composure cracked. She shifted forward in her chair, her eyes glassy, her lips trembling. "How dare you?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Jennifer pressed on, relentless now. "You keep saying you've moved on, but every word out of your mouth drags the royal family into it. You say you want privacy, but you cash checks to broadcast your life to millions. And let's be real, Megan. The only reason you still won't have an audience is because of Harry's last name. Without him, without that crown, you'd just be another actress with a resume nobody remembered." The words landed like bombs. Megan's defenses shattered in an instant. Tears welled in her eyes, spilling before she could stop them. She shook her head furiously as if trying to hold herself together. "You don't know me," she shot back, her voice breaking. "You don't know what I've sacrificed." Jennifer's voice softened, but the steel remained. "You're right. I don't know every detail of your life, but I know patterns. And what I see is someone desperate to be adored. Furious that the world won't play along. You can't have it both ways, Megan. You can't demand sympathy while treating everyone around you like they're beneath you." The audience erupted into applause. Megan's shoulders shook as she tried to hide her tears. She fumbled with her microphone, unclipping it with trembling hands. "This was a mistake," she muttered, her voice barely audible but carried by the studio mics. "I don't need to sit here and be insulted." She stood abruptly, grabbing her purse, her tears now obvious to everyone watching. The studio cameras followed her as she stormed toward the side of the stage. Audience members gasped, phones out, recording every second of the meltdown. Jennifer Hudson remained seated, her posture proud, her emerald dress glowing under the lights. She didn't chase after Megan. She didn't soften her words. Instead, she turned to the audience, her voice steady, professional, but touched with disappointment. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, exhaling, "I want to apologize to you. You came here expecting an honest conversation, and instead, you watched someone walk away the moment accountability entered the room. That's not what this show is about. This show is about truth, about connection, about facing the hard questions, even when it's uncomfortable." The audience thundered with applause, some rising to their feet in support. Jennifer glanced toward the camera, her eyes calm but resolute. "We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with real honesty." The lights dimmed as the band played the transition music. The cameras cut to commercial. But the damage was done. Meghan Markle had left in tears. Jennifer Hudson had delivered the sharpest takedown of her career, and daytime television had just changed forever. And that's how it ended. An interview that went from warm introductions to a meltdown nobody saw coming. What do you think? Was Jennifer right to call Meghan out, or did things go too far? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next explosive story.